Hey everybody, Happy New Year. It's Amanda with DevExpress and welcome to today's webinar on navigation with CodeRush with Chief Architect of the IDE team Mark Miller and CodeRush Community Evangelist Rory Becker. The DevExpress webinar series is a great opportunity to get live real-time feedback from us and answers to all your questions, so please submit them anytime during the webinar by typing them into the questions window in the control panel. And FYI, if you miss a webinar or you want to review them, we are recording each and every one. You can catch them all on the DevExpress channel at tv.devexpress.com. This webinar will run for approximately 60 minutes with questions, so with that, here's Mark and Rory.
Thank you, Amanda. Rory, how are you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. Yourself?
I'm doing pretty well. Well, welcome everyone.
Good stuff.
Yeah, let's dive into CodeRush navigation. This is part of our weekly webinar series on CodeRush every Tuesday at 12. You can tune in 12 o'clock Pacific time to hear Rory and I live, and we will answer your questions. And let's get started. So navigation. We've got a lot to cover, and I just created an XML.doc comment here, and I'll start with that. Within the XML.doc comment, there's a navigation feature that CodeRush offers you. So if I type in my summary determines ... and I'm done with that, I can now hit the tab key, and it'll take me down to the next field that I need to specify the comment for. So the robot ... I can hit the tab key, takes me to the next piece. I can continue to fill that out and hit tab all the way through those, and then I'm out. So so I can tab through these locations. Now VB, I think, introduced this feature a couple years ago, but this was a feature that even if you're using like 2005 in VB, you'll still be able to get this feature if you have CodeRush installed. So just a simple navigation piece there to move from field to field.
Mark?
Within. Yes.
Just to quickly interrupt, I thought it was just myself, but apparently somebody else in the chat room there. We're having difficulty because your screen does not appear to be changing.
Yes, it's not.
It is not. Oh, sorry, kids. It's not just you. Let me do that again.
There we go.
So
that's better. We can see things now.
Here we go. Let's do this the professional way. All right, kids. One more time. So here we go. I'm going to do an XML.doc comment. Type in my comment here, whatever this is going to be, determines, and then when I'm done here, I can hit the tab key, jump down to the next point. Thanks, Rory, so much for pointing that out. Specify the next field here, whatever that comment is, the robot, ... and then I'm going to hit the tab key and go down to the next one down here as well, filling out more, and then tab to just continue to go down there. So I can also shift tab as well between these locations. So that is the first navigation piece. The next one I'll show, which is also kind of small, is camel case navigation. Allows you to move between the camel case identifier, camel case letters in an identifier. So here, for example, I have is location different. If I hold down the Alt key and move left and right with the arrow keys, I can move to those camel case locations pieces right there. So I find that really useful. Especially with regard to refactoring. Often when we do a refactoring, you'll get a name that's determined by some heuristics, and you want to modify the name. You might take a portion of it, or maybe you just want to take something and change it. So what you can do is you can hold on the Shift key with that Alt and left or right and select it, and then you might hit rename, for example, and then type in changed, for example, like that. So it's very fast, very quick to grab the piece you need. So camel case navigation, you can combine it with the Shift key to select pieces inside, and you can move to the pieces between the letters. So that's very useful. Also useful, sometimes you just want to go somewhere and add something new, for example, like to add in a new word in between two other words. Okay, so that's very useful, very fast for getting to where you want to be. I'm just going to put a comment here, Alt plus left or right equals camel case nav.
So it's like the Alt key is giving us an extra level of granularity that we didn't have. Previously we'd use Control left and right and jump whole phrases at a time. Now we can use the Alt key as like a refined version of that we provide on top.
Right. Yeah, and it's like I say, it's a small feature, but I use it all the time, and so I think you'll find it useful as well. So the next big feature that we talk about when we talk about navigation in terms of frequency of use is tab to next reference. So if I hit the tab key, it'll take me to all the other locations where this reference exists. Here, for example, I can put the caret on the word robot and jump to all the robot references. A shift tab will get me back. And when I use this to drill in, for example, to get back to the starting of the drilling point, I just hit escape and it takes me back. There's the robot, and I hit escape one more time. Nothing else is on the stack, so I'd already moved back. But you can use this to drill in. So if I, for example, drill into robot, and then down here in robot, I see, oh, robots is interesting for me, and then I drill into that by just tabbing through it like this, and then I continue to going and say, oh, hey, next color is interesting to me. Let's go see where that's used. Right? I'm just hitting the tab key. I'm moving around. Now when I press escape, I go back to next color, escape again. Oh, escape's not taking me back. So you know what? I should have said this at the beginning. Normally what it will do is it will take you all the way back, collecting all the way up all the pieces that we drilled into. But I do have a daily build here, so we'll have the devs look at this. This may be something new in the daily build. So normally, though, escape will take you back through all of those pieces that we jumped through. All right. So so tab to next reference, really, really powerful, very fast. I have another solution loaded out here, and this is a big, big, big solution. This is actually source code to part of CodeRush. There are 17 projects in it. I think something like 3,000 files and classes and megabytes of source code. And I'm here on text document. In fact, if you saw the CodeRush side-by-side video we did a while back where we compared the speed of CodeRush rename with a competing product, this was actually the solution we had loaded up in that. And I'll just come in here and I'll hit tab to go to tab next reference on text document so you can see how fast it is. And there it is. So it goes through thousands of files and finds all the references to text document through there. So I can just tab through all of those, hit escape to get back to where I started. Okay, so tab to next reference is incredibly fast. Another thing that is very useful are markers. And so when I hit that button, when I press escape to jump back, and you see that locator beacon, kind of concentric circle, kind of drawing in on that location, that is actually using our marker technology, and it's possible to drop markers yourself at interesting locations in the code. So I'll use markers if I'm running through the code and I'm saying, oh, you know what, like for example here, change line text. Let's say I'm in this bit of code here and I want to come back to it. So I'll hold down the Alt key and press Home, and that'll drop a marker for me. I'll just put a comment down here, Alt plus Home, drops a marker. And there you can see it there, that red triangle in the code right at that location. If I use Visual Studio and I press Control-KK, that puts a Visual Studio bookmark off on the left side over there. And if you just kind of memorize this position, and this is what when I do this demo, I tell developers, look at the code, memorize the shape of the code where you are in the code, right? Get a sense of where you are. And then let's go up to some other location in the code that's visually different. Let's say we're working there. Now we want to go back to where we dropped the marker. If we use the Visual Studio command to pick up the marker, what happens is it shifts everything up to the middle of the screen, and it takes a moment to recognize that you're right back where you started. However, if we go to another location that's visually distinct, and then we press escape to get back, it brings us right back where we were. And so you're able, within a shorter period of time, to determine that, yes, this is to recognize the location. And then because it's a shorter period of time, you're able to get right back. The theory is you're able to get right back and code a little bit faster. So the markers are very cool in that manner, right? I drop a marker, go somewhere else, and I can keep dropping them, right? If this is interesting to me here, get connection point, let's drop a marker there. Notice the flashing I-beam caret is right there at that location, right? It drops it right where that caret is. Let's go somewhere else. Let's say, you know what, this bit of code here is interesting to me. I'll select it and I'll drop a marker. This time, instead of seeing a triangle, I see the braces around the edge. I'm just hitting Alt-Home at every one of these locations. I can go somewhere else and work. I can even drop markers in other files, for example. I can come over here and say, hey, you know what, this is very interesting to me here, right? And I'm working, I'm going to other locations. Let's go over to Div Visualizer. And now let's say we're done. You know, we've drilled in all of these different places, And each time we set a marker at a place we might want to go back to, maybe complete some work on. So let's press escape to jump back, and there we get back to add adornment. Just hit escape again. Now there's our selection. Notice the selection now exists still, right? If I drop a marker here and I go and I select some other code and I hit escape, it will reselect that piece that we had before, right? Restores that selection. Hit escape one more time. There's the connection point where you saw me drop that marker, and then back to the very beginning. Okay. So dropping marker. Alt home drops a marker. Escape collects it. And so they're all stack based. Okay. One of the things that we can do as well with markers is we can swap between two different locations. Sometimes that's useful. Let me drop a marker here. Sometimes that's useful if you have, for example, maybe you have something like this, document parse state, and you have some elements, pieces here you want to grab from here. Or maybe a better example, more something that I've done before, is where you have some constants. So, for example, I might have a constant of type integer called let's do this, king. We'll set that equal to 13, and we'll duplicate that, call it another one called queen. Got 12, and then one more time we'll duplicate that, and we'll call that jack, for example. So I've got some constants here with some values associated with them, and what I can do is now I can press Alt plus Shift plus Home to swap markers. All right, so I've got a marker down below that I've dropped. Let's scroll this up so it's up near the top. So hit Alt Shift Home, and now I'm down here. Maybe I want to do some code where I want to, in fact, let's just create a new method here. It will say get card name, and it'll take in a card num like that. Okay, and so now I can do something like saying if card num equals, and then let's hit Alt Shift Home, hit the copy key. We talked about this last week, Rory, with our session on selections and clipboards.
Clipboard stuff, yeah.
Right, you do not need, working with selections in the clipboard, you do not need to select in CodeRush when you want to copy an identifier to the clipboard. You just put the caret on the identifier, hit the copy key. So I hit Alt Shift Home, I hit copy, and then Alt Shift Home again and paste. Right, if card num equals king, then I can do something like do a return and a quote and say return king, for example, like that. And then else if, so I typed in LF to get else if right there. Card num equals, and here I hit Alt Shift Home again. I move down, copy, come back and paste, right? And come down here and I might say queen, for example, or just paste. Oops, copy that and then paste it there, for example, like that. And I can fill that out, continue filling that out right there. Also convert to function. This is off topic, but it's really powerful, right? I started with a void, and I want to change it so something returns a function, right? So I put the caret on the return keyword, hit the CodeRush refactor key, choose return to convert to function. And notice this is also pretty useful from a navigation standpoint, right? It brings me here so I can change the type if I want to, right? The type is determined by this return type, but maybe I want to change it to something else. Notice it drops a marker for me. This marker is blue. The other markers were red. The difference between a blue marker and a red marker is if I happen to get back on the line and make any change, like say I was going to add some additional code here, right? The blue marker goes away. It's just pulled out of the stack. Okay. The red markers, however, if I drop a red marker and I start inserting code, the red markers move with that code, right? Wherever that location is going to be. They move with the code. Escape picks them up. Okay.
This might be an interesting point, Mark. We're having a question on the side here. Are either of these markers persistent? That is to say, will they stay when we shut down Studio and reopen with the same project?
None of the markers I've shown so far are persistent. However, there's another kind of marker that we have that I'm pretty sure is persistent. And it's funny because I say pretty sure because I haven't seen it. I haven't really tested this in the final shipping version. I know that when we were writing it, I was specking out persistent. So we'll actually, it's a great question. We'll actually find out here in a minute.
Okay.
So let's look at those. So let me think for a second on markers. Are there anything else I want to talk about with markers? There are a few more things. There's navigation between markers, and I have to remember the shortcut for this. Let's see if I can remember this. And let's see. I think it's. Oh, I know what it is. What I'm thinking of. Here it is. So if I want to select between the caret and the top marker on the stack. So let me pick this up. Well, let's say we drop a marker here, and I go to here. I want to select between those two places. It's Alt-Shift-Page Up. This may fall into the category of something that you've just learned, Rory.
Mm-hmm.
Does it? Did I get you? Did I get one thing for you?
Oh, yeah, I'm afraid you did.
Yes! All right, I did. All right, that's awesome.
I would say perhaps it's worth mentioning at this point that we can bring up the CodeRush training window, and there are certainly some of these keystrokes will be constantly displayed to help people out.
That's right. That's right. So
even
tools,
for those of us who don't know
CodeRush.
every single keystroke, there's usually something in there to help us.
Let's see. Is it listed in there? It is not apparently listed in that list. Okay.
To be fair, there are a lot of keystrokes that are potentially available, so to list all of them would be overkill.
Right. Yeah. And the other thing too is that this is, that's absolutely the case. So this training window is designed to get you from 0 to 60 miles per hour, and then it's possible to go, or 90 kilometers per hour. It's possible to go much faster if you watch these videos and or dive into the documentation. So we get you. And the main reason for that is, like Rory said, is we can't show you everything because there's not enough room to show you all the things that are there. So Alt-Shift-Page Up is something I've used a couple times, Rory. I haven't used it a lot, but it is sometimes useful if, for example, I'm in something really big like HTML, and the piece I want to select isn't quite a structural kind of defined by structural boundaries, right?
Sure,
Last week we learned about selection increase, which is great if you've got something that's bound structurally, like a table in HTML, or the body of a method, for example, or a method, or a whole bunch of sibling methods, things like that. But if you don't have that and you want to go from one place to another off screen, and you're finding it, you're searching and trying to find that location, it's a lot easier than holding down the Shift key and moving up and down like this to try and find it. You can just simply put a marker there and use some other technique to get to that location. So,
okay, Mark, sorry, we've got another question just on the side here, and this is quite an interesting one. This bugged me for the longest time. There's a Randall in our sort of pseudo chat room. I won't butcher his last name just in case. He's wondering why it is that on his keyboard he can't drop a marker using the right-hand Alt key, the Alt-GR on some keyboards.
Oh, yeah.
There's a setting in the shortcuts of some description for that, isn't there?
There might be on that. So on non-US keyboards, on a lot of international non-US keyboards, the right Alt key has a functionality for getting different values from keystrokes that's distinct from the left Alt key. And I'm not sure if we have something in here or not for doing that. Do you see something in particular?
I believe there's an icon just at the top of the list there, which is the rightmost icon, which is how to treat the Alt key, whether to treat it as different or not.
Oh, sweet. So I have not actually...
Generalization.
Yes, I remember we talked about this, but this is the first time I actually noticed that button, Rory. So this is actually, if you stay tuned, if you keep watching these sessions, you're going to see times where Rory teaches me something about the product. It's already happened, and my goal is, of course, to teach something. Rory, who's like totally dived into the product, to teach him something that he has not seen yet. So it's going back and forth. Wait, what'd you say?
1-1.
1-1, exactly. 1-1. There you go. So if we have this selected, it'll distinguish between the two, and then then apparently it will not distinguish. So that may be the answer to that question. So I do know we had this tech support issue, and I do know I remember talking about a solution, but this is the first time I've seen that solution here. So
fair enough.
Okay, so what else? So we've got under markers here, by the way. So we're in the shortcuts, IDE shortcuts. You can see. Alt-End is set up to marker collect. We also have another binding to marker collect as well. If I click this button to hide the shortcut folders, and I sort it by command, there you can see there's the other binding for escape to it. It was just in another folder. I also have, what else do I have? So we talked about Shift-Alt page up to marker select. So that selects to the marker. That was the one I showed you. We showed you Shift-Alt home for marker swap. Marker drop is Alt home. Marker collect is escape. And then we have Alt end, a variation of marker collect. And then we have one more, which is collect marker and paste. We actually showed this, I think, last week, but I'll show it again now. So the idea is, let's go back over to where we were over here. And let's say we are, copying this code, just moving down. Let's select that, hit Alt-Shift-Home. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Hit Escape, hit Alt-Shift-Home one more time. Hit Escape, hit Alt-Shift-Home one more time. I should get to the top. There we go. So see what's happening there? I hit Alt-Shift-Home to swap, then realized I was swapping with a different marker that was not the one I wanted. So I hit Escape to collect it and popped it off the top of the stack. And I repeated that a couple times, so I finally got the one on top of the stack back up here at the top, right here. So I just want to come down in here, get Jack, and then I want to hit Shift Escape to come back and paste right there. And so Shift Escape will jump and paste. Okay. All right. And so okay. So that's markers. I think we've fairly exhausted markers. The only other thing I will say about markers is that whenever a CodeRush feature like a refactoring takes you away from where you start, right? Whenever it takes you away from where you start, then we will drop a marker. It is our duty to drop a marker for you, okay? And if we don't, I would call that a bug. But the essence of it is that you can rely upon us dropping a marker. So if you do something that takes us away, like for example, we come in here and instead of saying return king, we say selected card equals king, and we come over here and we say let's declare that as a field. Now, I think declare field is not actually going to take me away yet. That's okay. I'll hit tab to go take a look at that field. But now let's come in here and let's wrap that, and let's say encapsulate field read only. And now this allows me to select where I want to put this, for example. So I can just use up and down arrow keys or page down even to find a location for this that is meaningful. Put it there. And now I've just executed refactoring that's taken me away, right? So I can hit escape to get back. And to get here, I use tab to next reference, so I can just hit escape to get back again. And there I'm back at that starting location. Okay.
Am I right, Martin, thinking that occasionally we do that and we don't produce a visual for the marker? Sometimes it's invisible.
That is correct. So there are invisible markers that are out there. In fact, when I did come here, let's do this. We'll drop a marker. Well, actually, let's see what the best way to do this is. Let's hit tab. Let's do this. We'll do a Visual Studio bookmark here for now because I haven't showed you our bookmarks yet. Tab to next reference, and then we'll go back and get that bookmark. There it is. So there's nothing here that you can see on selected card, but if we hit escape to get back, there it goes and gets it. So yes, when you do, there's certain things that you do, like drilling into things, like using tab to next reference, where we will drop an invisible marker for you simply because we don't want to clutter the code up if you're scrolling up and down back through it again. We only want to clutter it if it is, something like super intentional, like you drop a marker or a refactoring kind of thing, or a code declaration piece. Okay, so that's kind of the essence of where we're going with that. One other thing that I just remembered, Rory, and that is Visual Studio has a feature to dive into the declaration, right?
It does indeed. Yeah.
And one of the options pages we have inside navigation is drop marker before jump. And I don't recall if this is. Let's see what happens when I hit default settings on this. It's cleared by default. So if you turn this on, what you get is this very cool feature that allows you. So if I use Visual Studio's feature to go to definition, which I've bound to Control Shift down. That's my binding there. And now I can hit escape.
Just F12.
Okay, so default is F12. So if I jump in there and then I hit escape, I can now get back. So go to declaration is very, very cool as well. I can jump to things and hit escape to go back like that. So I like that option that I just showed you. So I suggest setting that option. It allows you to drill in, use Visual Studio's feature to dive in and go to declarations, and then use CodeRush's feature to get back out. Okay, pressing escape to get you back out.
Mark, one question we've had a couple of times now. I was going to answer it by email, but since it's coming up a couple of times, I don't recall, a little while back, I tried myself to ask a similar question. At the time, there was no way to clear all the markers, to collect all of them and stay where you were, just in case you wanted to, and I wrote a plugin to do that. Do you know if that's been included in the product since?
No, I don't. I'm pretty sure we have not. We don't consider that at this point a priority in terms of what our developers are working on. Mm-hmm. It is possible for you to write a plugin to do this, to go through. Plugins can access all the markers on the marker stack, can go through. I think someone even wrote a plugin that
I think that was me.
Displayed a list of all the all the markers.
Mine didn't do that. No, that's true.
Yeah, as I recall, it was a tool window that listed all those locations, and I think it also had a button to clear. And I may be recalling from a prior version of CodeRush and not something new and up to date. But it is possible to do this and to write this. You have access to the entire marker stack, all the information that we have when we display them. And so you have a lot of control there. Okay, so it is possible to write a plugin that clears them all out. The other thing is, because they're not persistent, you could close the file and I think reopen it. Let's give that a shot. I'm going to save this real quickly right now. Let's overwrite this, and let's close the text document and see if I'm right on that. It may be that let's see, recent files. There we go. Text document. And now let's, yes?
No, I was just going to say you're using another navigational feature there of the recent files. Don't we have our own variation on that?
Yeah, I was going to show that too. Don't worry, it's in the list.
I'm sorry, it's hard. We keep crossing features. There's so much functionality.
All right, so I had something with the word card in it, I think is what I had. So I'm bringing up QuickNav. Now remember, this is that really, really giant solution, and I have options set on this. We'll talk about QuickNav more in a bit. So here's a selected card. That's where I wanted to go. Oh wait, that is actually not. This is the one I wanted to go to. So this is actually pretty cool, right? I typed in card, and it gives me get card name and selected card. I thought that's where I wanted to go, but I hit the control key to preview the location. I realized, oh, that's not it. I came up here, held the control key, and I was like, yeah, that's where I want to go. So here you can see, Rory, that the markers are gone, right? We had visual markers here in this method. I closed the file, reopened it, and they're gone. So that is, because the markers are not persisted, it is that's something that you can do if you want that to just quickly get rid of them all. The other thing you can do is hold down the escape key and collect them all until they all come up. So that's certainly also a possibility. And I think the other thing that I would say as well, if you are a CodeRush user and you're finding that you're just having all these markers and you're finding they're just not useful, that might be something to talk to us about. If you send a message to support@devexpress.com or maybe put a feature request, tell us the behavior you'd like to have instead. That may be one option for you. And another one might be to consider using escape to get back to where you were. Right? We put those markers there for a reason, because it's quick to jump back to where you are. If you're not using escape to get back to those locations, you're not as efficient as you could be. And so one of the other options you might have is consider going more efficient. So something to consider. Okay, so we kind of previewed some of the topics we're about to go into. One of them is QuickNav. I want to save that for a little bit later. I want to talk about bookmarks next. So bookmarks is a feature that actually came up because I was talking to one of our devs who was saying he really, really wanted a feature where he could put numbered bookmarks. And so let's go into the options page. We'll go up into IDE shortcuts. And we'll look under navigation. And under markers and bookmarks, we'll see something like this. And so what happens is we actually give you a bunch of them, but the ones that are grayed out, what we've done is we've said those are not individually enabled. So we give you 1 through 6 by default. And then you can actually have more if you want to. So here's what happens. We give it a command, bookmark could go to, and then we give it a parameter that identifies that bookmark. I'm pretty sure we can actually have a whole string in here. In fact, since I'm saying this, let's go ahead and enable 0, but let's call this actually the word 0 here for bookmark go to 0, and let's come in here and enable this one and say we want to go over into that bookmark right there. Okay, and, or to toggle it. I'm sorry. So to toggle it is Control-Alt-0, and to jump to is Alt+0. So let's try that. See what happens. So if I'm here, I'm going to hit Control-Alt-0. Ah, nice. Look at that. You see that, Rory?
Yeah.
See the word 0 right there next to the orange
That's
marker?
pretty good. Yeah.
I love it when this happens. All right, and so now so we're doing a couple tests, right? So to jump to it, I just hit Alt-0. So you see the locator beacon, which is really handy if you have a large monitor, right? Your eyes are up over in the upper right, and you come down in the lower left to get to it, and it gets you there. It brings your eyes in, it draws your eyes in. The other thing I love about this is, holy cow, it's actually drawing the name of the bookmark right there. So let's now test to see if we're actually persistent. Let's close this down. I'm just going to try hitting Alt-0 now and see what happens. Okay, we're open, and there it is. It opens it up, and it brings us right to it. We appear to be persistent.
Form of marker, albeit not stack-based.
Exactly, it's not stack-based. Now, I think Control-Alt-0 is what dropped it down, and there you go. So here we go. It shifted the view there, but here, there's Control-Alt-0 to place it, and Control-Alt-0 again gets rid of it. Okay, so we can do that. Control-Alt-1. There's a 1, Control-Alt-2, okay, and then pick those up with Alt-1 and Alt-2 to just get to those like that. And that's it. So those are bookmarks. Those you might find handy. Those are saved according to the spec, right? According to the spec, these are saved per solution. Okay. Okay. So they're actually, we have a file that's out there in the solution, a small file that has these stored out there. Normally, CodeRush puts nothing out there in the solution, so there's nothing that it pollutes in this area. But however, to make these persistent and tie them to the solution, we had to do this. We had to put a small file out there. So so that's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm super excited about that 0 putting in there. So this is something that both you and I learned right there in this moment, right?
Oh yeah,
Rory?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I like that. Okay, that's sweet. Okay, so that's markers. Let's go. Let me switch back over here to antisocial robots. Let's actually, I want to create some code, and we'll. I'm just going to grab any of these files. I'm just going to create a new class here. So type in new class, and I'm going to call this car, and I'm going to give it a single method called drive, like this. Let's make it public. And do I need anything else? I'm going to just give it a maybe a decimal property here called distance, like that. Okay. And did you call me, Rory? Did you say something?
No. Okay. I'm just following along. Don't worry.
Okay. So let's make this virtual. By the way, here's a template that you can use. Just V space to get virtual right in there at that location. So let's make that virtual, and let's call this base car, for example, car base. Do it like that. Let's hit the CodeRush refactor key and create a descendant to this, and we will call this maybe my supercar. And let's see here. I thought I had a way to implement to override the pieces inside of the ancestor really easily, but I don't see it here. Well, I do have this. I have PBOV, I think. No, PB. No, that's going to be private. PUB gives me public, and then OV space gives me this, and now I can choose that. All right. So, okay, so there's my override for it. And let's just use tab to mix reference in there, and we should see a drive go through all of those. Okay, does that make sense to you, Rory?
I was on mute there. It does indeed.
Okay. All right. Okay. So yeah, I'm going to surprise you anytime I see your icon for your microphone go mute. I'm going to say, "What do you think about that, Rory?" Just keep you on your toes. All right.
I'm answering questions.
Yeah, I figured you were. You're helping us out by muting yourself so we don't hear your keyboard. That's exactly what I figured. So let's now get an I supercar. Let's extract that. Actually, you know what? Let's take it not from there. Let's take it from car base instead. So let's extract an interface from here. So now we have iCar base, okay, and let's not implement it here. Let's instead create another class that implements this, okay. And so now we have an iCar base implementer. We'll call this maybe just the car implementer, like that. And we'll take this out just to kind of simplify things and keep all the code on screen here. So we have, let's see, let's put this, use just smart cut there. We talked about that last week. All right, so we have car implementer, car base, we have drive. So now if I do tap the next reference here, it goes between these two, okay? Makes sense? Roy, I'm about to surprise you. Makes sense? Oh, you were already unmuted. Okay, so I've got my two drives between my implementer, right? And then I also have my ancestor class, right? And my descendant supercar as well. And here in these I can move. Now what happens when I take my supercar and I implement iCar base? And now I do tab to next reference. So this, I think, this is very, very cool. In fact, if you look at competing products, most of them cannot do what we're doing right now. But we're actually seeing that because we're combining both inheritance and an implementation on the same member, that the same member is in fact all linked up. Visual Studio shows you it's linked up, right? If I put the caret here, Visual Studio has its highlighting, right, that shows these are in fact all the same. In fact, if I take this off, right, and do the same thing, put the caret in there, Visual Studio also will correctly now highlight only the pieces that are linked together, right? So this is, if I come down here, Visual Studio will link these two. It's only when I come in and combine the two together, right, that I now have an implicit connection among all of these references. So not only does tab to next reference work in this scenario, but so does rename. So if I come in and I hit the F2 key to rename, I can say, to drive, I can just say go fast or something along those lines. Change that, and it changes everywhere. Okay, so I wanted to show that just from a standpoint of tab to next reference. The other thing that's interesting, now that we've got these pieces here, is, let's go back to our large one. Let's see what I have here. Let's see if I have the word override in here. Oops. I opened up. There we go. We've got enough to dispose. Anything more interesting? Just that. Let's do this. Let's go into the File menu, and we previewed this feature. Let's go into Browse Recent Files. So this is a CodeRush add-on feature. And what it does is it keeps track of the last, I think, 500 files that you've opened up, and allows you to access them pretty quickly. So here the Recent Files dialog is up. If I want to, for example, find any file with the letter FG in them, I can just type in FG right here, and there I can see feature group and form get text, form get text designer, etc., all showing up. I see the last access time as well, and if I hover over it, I can see where the path is to that particular file. Okay, so that's the recent files dialog, and that's also useful for navigating, finding pieces that you're interested in. Let's just search in here for. No, it's not going to be in text document. I did a search earlier today, and I thought I got up I thought I found the interesting pieces, but apparently all I'm finding are uninteresting ones. But I guess we'll go ahead and we'll just start with this one right here. So I have override dispose. Yeah, that's not super interesting to me. I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to go in and let's go in and we'll do a find file. So let's at least get it started over here. So let's do a search for virtual in the entire solution and just find all of those with the Visual Studio to go get us something that we can work with, because I want to show moving up and down through the ancestor. And while I'm doing that, we'll go ahead and demonstrate it over here as well. So if I'm here, there's a CodeRush shortcut I can press, which is Control plus Alt plus N, and that equals the that's the navigation menu, and it's context sensitive. So if I'm here on override and I hit Control Alt N, I get jumped to, and I have some options here that I can go to. So for example, I have Ancestor, and if I go out to there, I can. It's jumping me out to. Interesting. What is my value type? Let's go back to where I was. Oh, because I was on void. Hold on. Let's put it over here. Let's go over here and go fast. There we go. Okay. So I can go to overloads with the ancestors, for example, and so you can see all of these right here. And so go fast and supercar, I can go to that, which is where I already am actually. I can go fast in car base, or I can go fast in my car base. I can jump to any of those pieces right there. So again, that connection between where I was and where I started was facilitated by this piece right here. If I take out car base right there and I bring this back up and I say go to overloads within the ancestors, I now only have these two options to get to. Okay, so that's what I was going to demonstrate over in the large file, but unfortunately I didn't have the files open there where I wanted them to be. The other feature that I kind of showed a little bit about is QuickNav. And to bring up QuickNav, and you know what, I'll talk about navigation menu in a minute, but since I'm talking about QuickNav and you've seen it a couple times, Control plus Shift plus Q equals QuickNav. All right, so if I hit Control Shift Q, the QuickNav dialog comes up. I think when you first see it, it looks probably more like this, something like this. And then what you can do is you can go find the pieces that are interesting to you inside of here. Like right now I'm just paging down, right, to see them. And then I can hit the tab key, no, sorry, not the tab key, the control key, to then highlight that piece that is potentially interesting. If I already know that's where I want to go, I just hit enter and I jump there. Now, we're doing navigation, Roy, right, where we are moving from one location to another. So we should expect CodeRush to drop a marker for us. So if we want to get back, I'm going to hit escape, and there I am. I jumped back to where I started, right there. Okay?
Yep.
So Control-Shift-Q, QuickNav. Now, let's talk about some of the options and the things that you can do with this. One of the options is you can determine what you want to see. For example, I am showing methods and properties, but I'm not showing events, I'm not showing fields yet, and I'm not showing parameters. So I'm just, oh, these are interesting. Look at this. Oh, it's declarations out in the XAML. This may be something new in 11.1, so or maybe unnamed pieces in the XAML as well. I'm not sure yet. Interesting. I've never seen that before. So the other thing I can do is I can come in here and, like I said, I can filter. We have a couple ways that we can filter that are kind of cool. One is you saw before where I just typed in a portion of the thing I'm interested in, and then I see everything that has that portion in it, right?
Yep.
I can also do an abbreviation. For example, I can type in CN, uppercase like this, and there I can find class name. Let's see what other things are interesting in here. So here I have this method, set position of robot within the room. So let's type in SPR, and you can see what we get here. Set position of robot within the room. So it matches this, even though we only, you know, so if we remember set position robot, we can still get to it, right? The letters that are in red, now Rory, I know you're colorblind, but I think you can see the O highlighted differently.
I can. The O is very easy for me. The other one is a little harder, but yeah.
The reds are hard. The red letters are hard for you to see. Is that right?
It is.
The S and the P. Yeah, we'll have to get an option to change that there for you, Roy.
That's all right. I trust it. So I've used it enough time to know that it's got it right.
so there, the visualization is showing you the blue O here, the blue W is showing you didn't type in those letters, but we matched other letters, uppercase letters. I think, let's see, we spec this out, let's see if it's working. Yeah, lowercase works as well. So we used to be only uppercase, but now lowercase works now. So here I typed in PR, for example, and you can see I found mouse position to room point is up here in the list, and also have prints down here at the bottom. Okay, so that's one of the filtering things. You can filter off of access, like private, public, all the way to that. This setting here is looking only in the current solution. You can say, look at all open files, which includes files from the solution, maybe files that are outside of the solution as well. You can choose a current file, also the current namespace, and the current project. Okay, and then types as well. You can grab all classes, all interfaces, all structs, all enumerations, and delegates. Okay, one thing that you can do with QuickNav that is not so obvious. Let me bring up the user guide. And let's go into Reference and Actions. We'll go down and find QuickNav in here. Click on this. So QuickNav actually has optional parameters that you can pass to it, including a type filter, a member filter, an access filter, and a location filter. So you can pass in parameters separated by commas. You can say, find all types, for example. Find all methods, for example. Okay, or find only properties, and bind those to certain keystrokes. So for example, in options here, let's bring up options, and let's just get rid of those, sort by command, scroll down to QuickNav. I have this right here, which is bound, Control-Alt-Shift-C, which is bound to QuickNav and passes in all types, all members, all visibilities, but for the current file, for example. So I can do something like that, and limit what QuickNav does. This is useful because QuickNav is kind of this all-in-one tool, and some of our competitors have multiple tools to do what QuickNav does, and customers moving to CodeRush from the competing products like to have key bindings that match what they're already used to. So you can set up custom key bindings here to limit the functionality of QuickNav if you choose to. And Rory just sent me a link here while I was talking.
Yeah, I don't mean
you want me to show this, Rory?
You can if you want. I don't mind. It basically was just a post on some example configurations that you can do. So we've got things like Control-T for find types solution wide, and Control-M for find members in the current class, perhaps. So some examples of how you might choose to configure it. But basically, there's so many options that you can pick the precise types of things that you'd like to use.
Hey Rory, can you put this URL out in the chat room so people can get out and link to that?
I can indeed. Hopefully.
Okay, so I'll just demonstrate that. So we're going to see it only in the current file. Let's switch back over into here, and let's bring up text document. And so I'll hit Control-Alt-Shift-Z, and now we see QuickNav only for pieces in the current file. Right, only for elements in the current file, and it's already got these pieces selected for us. All members, all types, all visibilities, current file is selected. Okay, and that's pretty cool. Okay, so that is QuickNav. Two more things with QuickNav. One is if you hover over the piece, you'll see a little stack indicating where it's coming from. So at the top you see it's in the class text document. Beneath that it's the namespace that it's in, and then beneath that is the file. You can also right-click this and say Show Type if you want to see the type over here in the list. This is useful if you have multiple types with the same member in it. In fact, if we go back over into the other app version of Visual Studio that we were in, and we come back over here and bring up QuickNav, oops, Control-Shift-Q like that, and we right-click and say Show Type. Oh, it's already there, and we type in GF for Go Fast to just see those. There you can see we have it in Supercar, Car Base, Car Implementer, and iCar Base. Okay.
That's a minor thing, Mark, but I don't know if you showed it. For those who don't like using the mouse, you don't have to mouse down into that second box. You can just hit the down arrow key, and you'll go straight there. You can leave that mouse well alone, and of course you've got your Control key. You can hit Enter to jump to the item in question. All that stuff works without using the mouse.
This is actually a great point that Roy brings up. So bring this up with Control-Shift-Q. I can just start typing like GF like this, and then down arrow immediately. Notice that I didn't have to change focus, right? This dialog is built for speed and efficiency. Everything we do, at DevExpress is really targeted towards optimal efficiency. And here you're seeing it with this dialog, right? It breaks the traditional, rules of switching focus around, because it only has two controls, and up and down don't make any sense inside of this text box up at the top. But they make a lot of sense with the secondary control. So the whole thing behaves as if it's one super control to some degree. Right?
There's one other minor thing, Mark, is that filter will not show by default, I believe. So if you should launch this feature and think, where is it? It is that the little drop down on the right will need to be used at least once to show you those filtered items.
Oh. You know, that I think you might be right on there. And it comes up like this. Is that right? Is that how it comes up?
I believe it has the search bar, but not the toggle toolbars, the tool buttons.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
It's
I know.
just to say what the default is, isn't
yeah.
it?
This is how it is installed.
That's
right,
it,
like
yeah.
that. Yeah, that makes sense exactly. And so you can come over here and you can show the options or hide them, or you can also, I think, right-click and choose show filter tools as well. Oh, I'm curious to see what this is going to do. Options. Oh, I see. Right. This is all old stuff, but it lets you choose the color for the preview. Drop markers when jumping to new locations. That's the default, and some positioning options here too. So just kind of UI things that we can fix there. Okay, so let's go back. Let's go back over into the big one here, and we've got some virtual pieces out here. Let's see what's interesting inside of here. I want to get something that I have a feeling we have a lot of. Oh, you know what? Let's do this. I think I have this file open. Let's go into recent files, browse recent files, and I think I have the word strike through in it. Let's see, do I have it? Let's go there. Beautiful. That's where I wanted to be. Okay, this override is what was interesting to me. So back to that Control-Alt-N, right? So let's look at some of the things that you have available to you here. By the way, the first few that you see are based on your history of use, and then after that you have an alphabetical listing. I will say, so this is a critique. I'm actually going to give a critique of this UI a bit. I will say that I feel right now we've got a little bit too much noise in here. This is an extensible piece of CodeRush, and so it's easy to add new pieces. But I want to take some of these, and we've already talked about this for 11.1, and group them so it's easier to use and there's less noise. For now, however, let's explore the pieces that are in here, and you have, you know, my assertion that our intention is to clean this up a bit. So one of the things that you may find useful is you can jump to statements. So if I'm on a method that's really big, I can get a list of all the level 1 statements. In other words, it's the statements that are at the beginning of the I'm not sure how to describe this. They're all the sibling
ones that are not nested inside other structures.
Thank you, Rory. That's exactly, yes, beautiful. So that is, yeah, beautifully put. So it's only the top level statements. So I can go find those pieces right there, and go jump into those and get to those statements. So that is something you may find interesting. Control-Alt-N brings that up. Overloads within ancestors. So here I can go through and I can say, well, okay, I'm here, but I can now go up here instead, the coordinate adornment painter, and jump up to that. So here's the coordinate adornment painter, and there's the abstract piece right there. Hit escape to get back. The parent type, I can jump up to that. So that's just the parent. That is the type that holds this element that I'm in. Okay. There is also some overlap. If I just choose parent, I'm in a method. The parent of this method is also the class as well. So it'll take me up to that class the same way. So let's see what else we have in here. Statements, we've shown that. Abstract, member, ancestor. So I can jump up to there immediately to get to that ancestor method. Flow breaks. So this, I don't really have any flow breaks. I think I've got a return statement in here. But if you have any breaks in flow in the method and you're interested in those, you can jump to those using the flow breaks option to jump right to those. First child, first statement. Let's see what else. Last statement. So first statement and last statement, you can figure out what those are. Those are also sometimes useful to jump to. Next reference. This is what tab to next reference does. Previous reference is also shift tab. Previous member allows you to move up and down through the members as well. And you can also bind shortcuts to all of these, right? Just like we can bind shortcuts to, in fact, let's do that. Let's go in here. Let's look at commands. So I only have one binding to navigate right here, but let's come in here and let's duplicate this. And let's make it Control-Alt-Shift-N. That. And let's have a parameter be. Oh, the parameter's got to be the name of the piece we just saw. I forget what that parameter is. Let's hit OK and go see that. I forget what that was. previous member. So let's try that. Let's see if this works. So this is all based on trust right now. This should absolutely work. I've never actually tried this before. So let's see what happens. Control-Alt-Shift-N, and it takes me from method to method. Oh, wait. What is happening here? Should get points. Control-Alt-Shift-N takes me to the previous member. Oh, but I'm down in here. Do I have another binding to it? It looks like it. I'm not sure if it's doing what I'm thinking it's doing or if it's doing something else. Let me see if I have two bindings to Control-Shift-N. Take these out, hit by shortcuts. I do have a second binding to it. There you go. Let's take that out and come back over here and try it again. All right, so Control-Alt-Shift-N. So I have to be up on the... There we go.
Just for those that are listening, I've also just added to the chat window a link to one of the earlier cheat sheets that we provided, a PDF, I believe. Somebody was asking for that. This lists a lot of the CodeRush shortcuts, more than certainly can be included in the CodeRush training window. So if you want to have something just sat beside you there, certainly containing the defaults anyway, that can be of good use. So I'll pop that out there.
Yeah, there it is right there. Thanks, Rory, for that. Okay. All right, so yes, you can bind shortcuts to certain navigation pieces. So if you are interested in having, like the one I just did here, let's do that. We'll look at that one more time. The navigate previous member. So you just put the name of the menu item that you want to use there, and then you can navigate to it. Now we also have structural navigation as well. So structural navigation is, and it's off by default, but I really like it. It is off by default. It's in a section called Possible Conflicts, and it says here you've got structural navigation shortcuts that may interfere with existing Visual Studio bindings. What happened is in the early days we created these, and then Visual Studio came out and took these bindings away from us, and so if you were jumping into Visual Studio and then purchasing CodeRush, you'd be like wondering why we have a conflict here. So, Control down, Control up, Control Shift down, and Control Shift up. These will move from next sibling, previous sibling, and we also have Control Alt down and Control Alt up to go to first child and first parent. So look at those right now. So if we're here, we get Control Alt up, we get to the parent. Control Alt down gets us to the child, and then oops, not that one. Control down takes us from piece to piece to piece, and then control down, Control up, right there gets us to this one. Let's see if I can find something with a little more structure to it. Here we go. So we go Control Alt down, then Control down, Control up, then Control Alt up to get out, like that. And then Control Alt up again will get us out to the beginning of the method, and Control Alt down will get us there. So I like these a lot, and if I hold the Shift key down with these. I thought I could get these. Maybe we've changed. Oh, let me bring that up again. What am I thinking of? There's structure. There it is. Selection include next element. Control Shift down, Control Shift up. That's what I was. Okay. So Control Shift up. Interesting. So there must be another binding to it. Let's see what we've got. Selection include next element. Huh, interesting. So I haven't used this in a while, but it's interesting. It does not appear to be functioning. Selection include previous element and next element. Let me try that one more time. Let's see why that is not working. I have to have something selected. Yeah, there's something interfering with that. I wonder if it's a visual. It could be a Visual Studio binding as well that's taking priority over this. If you install CodeRush and you hit a shortcut that has a conflict, you'll see a window pop up, and I may have told the system that I want to use Visual Studios instead, Visual Studios binding instead, maybe during a demo or something along those lines. I think it's under Features, and so here's what's happening. We're enabling the feature, disabling features. This is where I would go to look at this. Ah, there they are. right there. Selection include next element and include previous element are disabled. I've disabled those. So let's clear that off. So here's what I've done. I went into core features because of the functionality I expected to work that wasn't. And now let's try it. Control-Shift up. Now we get the what happened dialog comes up. I can say, yeah, go ahead, always do this. So apparently what I thought happened. So hitting it this way increases the selection in this direction. Control-Shift up is doing this, right? Control-Shift down increases selection in the other direction. So I always do this, like this. So I can widen a selection out. So it's useful if I'm in here, for example, and I hit selection increase, and I want to just grab the piece above it, right? Control-Shift up is going to extend out to there. Very quickly get the thing I need, and now I can do extract method. Maybe I want to get one method below. Control-Shift down gets me that. Okay, that's where this is really useful. And selection decrease works with this. So I'm hitting selection decrease now to go backwards. So I find this really useful, these two options right here, really useful for quick selections.
That's good.
Rory, anything you want to say on that? That's probably new stuff you haven't seen.
I just kind of need to confess I had no idea you could do that, so I'll be using that a lot more from now on.
It is. There's a conflict with Visual Studio, right? When we saw that come up, it said, here's what Visual Studio does. And so you can choose whether you want Visual Studio's feature or not in there. The other thing you can do, too, is you can say, I always want to do CodeRush, but you can specify context. Like you could say, for example, let's go back in here. Whoops, I think I hit, I hit something else. Bring up our videos. So training videos. So let's go back into options. So I think I'm at like an hour, and I promised Amanda at the beginning that this would only go 40 minutes, and I think she's probably thinking like, Milla, again. Yeah. He's like making me miss lunch.
That's Miller minutes, yeah?
I knew better.
But
Miller
here's
minutes.
The thing. Here's the thing, though. It's like, for anybody listening live, my apologies for not being able to wrap this up faster. But for anybody who's not listening live, there's definitely value in watching Rory and I dive in deep on a particular topic, right? Because you're getting things that may have eluded documentation. So so let's see, options. I wanted to go into options, and I wanted to come back in here, find those pieces that we just enabled. Here they are. Let's clear them again, so they haven't been responded to. And let's see what happens here when I hit the key. What's the Visual Studio one? Edit previous highlighted reference. Ah, right. It goes to the previous highlighted reference, and that's the new feature in Visual Studio. Control-Shift up, Control-Shift down. Well,
that's the one I disable.
Yeah, we have tab to next reference. We don't need it.
Which just rocks so much better.
Well, it does. Tab to next reference works across all files, and Visual Studio's feature, I'm pretty sure, is limited to either the project or only the file that you're in. It doesn't go outside of the current file, I believe. So,
yeah, because it's only highlighting things on screen, effectively,
right,
or within that file.
Right, and the other thing is you have this highlighting that they do, which is the Visual Studio does. That is, it puts essentially a gray border in the background, making the essential piece of information, the thing you're most interested in, harder to see and read. So yeah, I'm a big fan of our implementation. So normally you could say always do this, but what if you wanted both? What we could do is this. Let's say always do this for now, right? Let's hit the bottom one and say always do this for now as well. But let's go in to options, and let's go into IDE shortcuts, and let's set context on these. So we're back in structure. The two commands are selection include next and include previous. Let's add a context to say, let's see, editor, I think, and then line selection. That's where I want to be. Selection, any selection. Okay. So we have to have some selection. And let's copy that context. I'll right-click it. I'll choose Copy Context and come down here, and I'll paste that context here. And now this should work only if there's a selection. So I'm hitting down, Control-Shift down, and I'm hitting Control-Shift up. Right? So that works. But now let's say there's not a selection, and I'm just hitting Control-Shift up. Look what is happening. Visual Studio is moving me between the references. But again, see, it's only within the file. See, it's like it's only here and here is where it's moving me between. Whereas tab to next reference, if I hit tab to next reference, it takes me into other files. See?
The problem is in the implementation, as you say. They're starting from a pretext of highlight and move between highlighted things. Well, naturally, you can't be highlighting something that's in another file. We're starting from a navigational feature, which is tab to next reference, and we happen to highlight in a very pleasant way once we've got that.
Right.
So we've got the emphasis in the right place.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay, so let's look at my list. What other things do I need to show you? Is it possible that we might be done? Let's see. So we showed jumping to member overrides and interface implementers. We saw that. Base types, I think we saw that too. We saw camel case nav. We saw tab to next XML doc field. We saw a lot about markers dropping. QuickNav. We saw that.
Quick file nav.
Quick file. Well, yeah. What? You know, I don't use that word.
What's not the same?
What's the shortcut for that?
Control Alt F.
Alt F. There we go. So it's QuickNav, and this is, I think, only the files inside of this particular solution. So if I type in TD, I should see everything that starts with that text doc. So there's text doc in there.
This is fairly similar to a similar feature introduced in Studio 2010. However, of course, we support 2005 and 2008 as well, so it goes back some way there.
Right.
And as you say, it's all the files rather than just the recent ones, which are the alternative. Yeah,
quick file nav, Control Alt F. So we have that as well. And this UI is the same as the others, right? I can just, even though the caret's here, I can still use up and down arrow to grab these, to look at these different pieces. Okay. There's one last kind of navigation feature that I think I will. Let me jump back over here, and what I need to do is I need to get a build that can actually run. And let's see. Let me just see if I can get that over here, because I've been playing with this like crazy and not really build failed. What do we have? Opening window. That's not good. Actually, it's actually not bad. I remember I did extract this piece right here. Okay, so let's try to build one more time, see what it'll build now. Please build. Hey, that worked. Let's set a breakpoint in some code. Move to next color. I want something. Build message is not called anywhere. So position a robot within the room. Okay, so let's do this. Let's go. Let's take robot and let's widen scope, promote it to field. Okay, so we just created a field called robot. We're passing it as a parameter in here. Let's actually go one step further into robot, and let's encapsulate the field read-only. Okay, and we'll put it here. Let's not change this, but let's change this. Okay, and now, so see what's going on? I'm passing in robot, and it's a property. Now let's set a breakpoint here, and let's run. Whoops. This, we want to come in here and say do not compile. No, nothing with those. And let's try now to run. Oh, let's rename this. Let's see if we can fix this. My robot. See if that fixes that. I think it's seeing something in the XAML. No? Property type is less accessible than property antisocial robots my window dot my robot. What is going on with that? I'm not understanding that error message. Antisocial robots.robot. Yeah, I know, Roy. I'm not expecting you to jump in here with help here. The antisocial robots.robot is less accessible than property antisocial robots main window. Property type. Oh, it's property type.
Can't be exposed outside of the class because it's not itself public.
Got it. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's this keyword right here that I failed to read. All right, a little embarrassing moment. Sometimes that happens. Don't worry, I'm going to edit all these out.
You're C# MVP, aren't you, Mark?
Quiet, Rory. All right, so let's run it. We've got a breakpoint. We've got a breakpoint at our other location right there, my robot. I'm sorry, I thought I had a naming conflict. Okay, so let's run it. What? Field type. Oh, come on. Room point. Let's go over the room point as well. Yeah, I think it's so. Let's change that to public as well. Let's see. I'm a little faster now at fixing these errors. Build succeeded. It's interesting we had a successful build before, but it seemed like maybe we didn't. Okay, so we're running, and hopefully we'll hit that breakpoint. And I'll show you the last navigation feature, assuming we hit that breakpoint. All right, here we go. Looks like we're hitting the breakpoint. Okay, so normally when you're stepping into the code, and what I want to do is I want to grab the CodeRush tool window. This is it right here. So this is the CodeRush tool window that we give you when you install CodeRush. One of the pieces it has on it is Step into Member. And let's see if I sort of customize option down here near the end. I think hit it. Okay. So what I want to do, I want to grab this and move this. Can I just grab it and move it like this? No, I thought customize. Okay, Roy, I may need some help from you here. I've got customize up. I want to move this to here. I thought I could just drag it over, but I'm not seeing able to do that in 2010.
Studio 2010 pretty much destroyed the drag drop ability of the toolbars.
Okay, that's too bad. All right, so we'll close this down. But what I like to do is put step onto member over with our debugging pieces right here and stick it into there. So we have, you've got right here, you have step into and step over. So we'll say we want to step into set position of robot, but we don't want to step into my robot. Normally, right, when we're here and we say step into, we get into, oh, I forgot they fixed this, didn't they? They changed this in 2010.
There's a right-click menu allows you to toggle that on and off, and it only fixes it for properties. So if you had a method call being passed the result of another method call,
I see.
Fixed it.
That's right. I remember them talking about this change. So they made a change here, but so this may not be as valuable of a feature to you now in 2010. However, let me jump back out again.
Well, Mark, they only fixed it for properties.
All right. So if
you pass a method to a method, it still has the same effect.
So you know what? Let's go ahead and quick change this. Let's come in here. We'll go to my robot. We'll dive into my robot. We'll use a refactoring and change it into
great
property method like that. Okay, so now we've got get my robot. Come back over here, and now we'll repeat this one more time. So now we'll demonstrate how this works. So here we go. We go in and we say let's step into it. What we want to do is step into this method, not that one, right? So step into takes us here, but that's not really where we want to be. So we're stepping out. I'm glad they fixed it for properties. Anybody? Is this a 2010 fix?
Yes,
Lori,
it is.
Do you recall? Yeah. Okay. So what's cool about this is that in 2008, if you're still working in there, this feature is totally applicable and fixes the problem in 2008 and 2005 and even 2003. So what we want to do instead is, let me step past this. We'll come back up here. We'll set this as the next statement. So what we want to do instead is we put the caret on the thing we want to dive into, and we click this button right here, Step into Member. And then that actually takes us into the member itself, set position of robot within the room, skipping everything else. And then we can continue to run until we step out of it. I'm just going to hit Shift 11 to step out of this, and then we'll be back on the line outside of that. So that, I think, is the last navigation piece that we have here. I'm going to ignore this argument exception because we're playing with radically changed code that I've been playing around with, and I haven't been careful as I've been changing the code. I've just been doing mainly demos on this. But that covers nearly all of the navigation pieces. The only thing to my knowledge that we missed in this discussion are how to create navigational pieces inside of plugins, but we'll cover that at a later date. All right. So, Rory, anything else you want to add? Anything else you want to mention about this?
No, I think we've covered that pretty well, actually.
Okay. Tab to next reference is your friend. Oh wait, there is something I forgot. Rory, Hold on, let's go over into the giant foundation class. It is, I talked about this before, but it's good to say it's code issues. Oh, not code issues, sorry. That's funny. I brought that up because it had the same color as the other one, and my mind just said it. It's references. That's what I want to bring up. References. Okay. So here we go. References. So let's close this down. I talked about this in our introduction to CodeRush, but if you put the caret on something, have live sync set up down here, you're going to see all the references to that piece as you move through the code here, right? So here I've got it on card num, coming up to selected card. Hold on, I'm not seeing live sync here. Let's toggle this and see if we can get this to behave as I'm expecting it to. Interesting. So for some reason, I'm not seeing this update like it should. I'm going to chalk this up to a daily build / demo bug. Let's switch this over into on command and at least show that part of it there. Okay. So one of the things I wanted to show is I'm on this giant project. I have thousands of files. I'm now putting the caret on int, and I'm going to do find all references on that. And we'll see how painful this is to find all references to int inside megabytes of source code, millions and millions of lines of code. And it's about this painful. It's actually the fastest find all references available. It's faster than Visual C. It's significantly faster than all the competing projects that are out there. You have a project this big, you're going to, and you want to find 18,000 references, it's going to take you a lot longer than that. By the way, what we just saw was how long it took to process parts of the solution that it previously had not looked at, okay, to do that find all references. But if we come in and do it again, and we do a refresh on this, I'm expecting it to be much faster.
Well, to give you an example, I run a similar thing. I think you've got a virtual machine running there, haven't you? So possibly that's effective.
I do not have a virtual machine. I am seeing the results, though. It does look like it is faster to me the second time around.
I've done a demo using a well-known...
It's surprising me, though, it's not Go ahead.
Sorry. I do a demo with a fairly well-known IDE competitor to Studio. I think it was Sharp Develop. And there's about 750,000 lines of code in there. I search for references to the string, just as you are there, and it finds something like 8,000 references. Actually, no, sorry, 16,000 references in about 6 seconds cold. Obviously quicker shortly afterwards, but that's pretty good. I mean, that's not... We should point out here, we're not searching for the word string. It is literally references to the string type. So you won't find things like the function toString, except that it, of course, returns a string. You won't find a comment with the word string in it. This is an intelligent search. This is not just pure text.
Right. Yeah, and the other thing you get is you get these previews right here. You get actually syntax highlighted contextual information showing you where the references are found, and you get a preview over here of the location as well. So yeah, the live sync feature, the feature that I am for some reason not able to demonstrate. Let's go over in here, and I'm sure it'll work over here, and we'll look into why that wasn't working in the other one. Let's bring it up over here, and we've got live sync turned on. Let's just move the caret around. As I move the caret around, and change the focus, it'll show you an update down here. All of those references to the piece that you're on. All you have to do is just put the caret on it, pause it a little bit, and then you can see that live sync down there. Okay, so with that, I'm going to now say we're done, and thank you everybody for listening in. We'll see you next week, and at the same time, Tuesday at 12 o'clock for the next CodeRush in-depth session. Amanda, thank you for dealing with me.
Always a pleasure, Mark. Always a pleasure. I am starving, though. I will say that.
You hear that, Rory? It's always a pleasure. I'm not obnoxious like people are saying. It's not bad.
Who says you're obnoxious? That's not true.
It's good. It's good.
Lies. All lies.
All right. Get us out of here, Amanda.
All right. Thanks, Mark. Thank you, Rory, very much. Okay, everybody, so we have 2 more webinars this week. Tomorrow, January 5th, is an Ask DevExpress on XAF and XPO. It's a Q&A session with the XAF team and our XAF evangelist, Gary Short. They'll be covering the XAF Business App Framework and the XPO ORM tool. And Thursday, DevExpress welcomes Sean Wildermuth with Agilitrain. He's presenting Writing Your First WP7 Application, Windows Phone 7, where he'll take you from file to new to a completed Windows Phone 7 app for the marketplace. And again, if you missed anything from this webinar or you want to review any previous webinars or watch the hundreds of product tutorials that we have on there, visit us on the DevExpress channel at tv.devexpress.com. Again, thanks so much for joining us, and thank you for choosing DevExpress.
So, Rory, do we have any questions that we need to answer? Any questions left over?
I believe we've done quite a few, gone through. We can check the polls and maybe put out a blog post or something with some of those answers, most of which, in fairness, we covered on the audio as well. I would say to anyone who is still listening, I think we failed to mention one tiny thing about tab to next references, only just occurred to me, is that it will not function if you're right at the start of the identifier by default. You need to be at least one character in.
Yeah, you know, when I demo that now, because it will function if you're at the start of the identifier and that identifier is in the middle of the line, but it doesn't function if that identifier is at the very beginning of the line.
Not on assignment, for example.
Right, exactly.
If it's in a condition, then yes.
But what I do is, instead of explaining that, Rory, what I do is I just simply say, put the caret inside the identifier. That's what I say,
yeah.
and that generally works for everybody.
Good stuff.
So looks like, so I'll go through these. I'll go ahead and turn off my audio here in a second. We'll look through any of these questions. We'll answer them, any that are remaining. It looks like you took care of a lot of those, Rory. I appreciate that. Thank you as always. Yeah, it's awesome.
Pleasure.
All right, so I'll look through these. I'm going to mute my microphone. I'm going to look through the questions, and then we'll see you next week, Rory. Okay?
Indeed.